Alright, so I'm looking to upgrade my PC, and I've been hearing a lot of things about this new brand called Overpowered. So let's kind of see what they have here. Here's one. Okay, 8700, 1080 Ti, decent specs. Wait, what? Alright, so given that you've watched Steve's video of the teardown of his DTW1, and also he ordered a DTW3 and they sent him a DTW1, so that's strike one against Walmart. But the teardown of his DTW1, they used a lot of ADATA parts, and they used a single stick of 16, not giving you, dual channel bandwidth. There's just a lot of things that they cut corners on. So let's take a look at these specs for the DTW3. So you get an i7 8700. You get a 1080 Ti, which is I believe a gigabyte card, a dual fan gigabyte card is what they put in those. A 512 gigabyte SSD, which is a cheap ADATA 2.5-inch form factor, and a 2 terabyte hard drive, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. And they charge $2,100 plus shipping. So that is quite a lot of money. So they use really cheap fans, a really cheap case. There's almost no cable management. Their power supply is some off-brand Chinese thing with ketchup and mustard cables coming out of it as ugly as sin. This case has no airflow. I can't even imagine what thermals are. They use this little dinky air cooler on the 8700, and I just know it's gonna run hot as hell. It's terrible. So this whole build is targeted at people who don't know any better, and that's fine. Not everybody is super into PC, so people just want to play games without learning everything about a computer, and there's absolutely no shame in that. A lot of people just stick to consoles because they work. But some people understand that there are different advantages to PC gaming, and that might be more their forte, which is cool. But companies like Walmart, companies like iBuyPower and CyberPower, they target people who don't know any better. And I mentioned CyberPower because a good friend of mine just ordered one without consulting me. And they really gave him the short straw on that one. Cable management was terrible. It was pretty much the same story as this, except he got an Enthru Evolve case, so that was nice. He did get a good case out of the deal. But yeah, so that's kind of what you can expect from a Walmart computer. And like I said, they're paying a fraction of a price. They're paying next to nothing for these parts that they get into this computer. They order in bulk, they pay somebody a couple pennies to assemble it, and then they just ship them out. They're making an obscene amount of money with these super cheap parts. Now what I've done is I've assembled a build just in Newegg, just parts that I would recommend for a high-end gaming PC. And so we have the Fractal Define Meshify C. I personally have built in this. This case is a little bit small, which is good and bad. Good because obviously it takes up less room. Bad because if you wanted to build a loop in it, or if you just wanted like an EATX platform, which I guess it's not designed for, so that wouldn't make sense. It's just really cramped for an ATX mid-tower case to me, but it still works really, really well. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be on here if I didn't like it. But the front is all mesh, so airflow is outstanding. Filtration is excellent, something that this Walmart PC has absolutely zero of. That whole front panel is not filtered whatsoever, and that's 3 intake fans on the front panel with no filter. It's not going to have a happy ending. Here we have the 850 watt, 80 plus gold EVGA modular power supply. I use these all the time and I love them. I've had zero issues. The fans are super quiet. They're incredibly reliable. There's tons of aftermarket cable support, so you can get all kinds of different sleeving, different lengths, different colors. Tons of big sleeving companies support this power supply, so it's excellent. I highly recommend it. So given that, you would have the option also to get custom cables from us that would have combs and they would look really, really nice. It really makes your build stand out from those that just use the regular cables. It just looks so much better. So I did only choose 16 gigabytes of RAM. I know the DTW3 has 32, but here's my reasoning. You don't need 32 gigabytes of RAM for a gaming PC. It's simply unnecessary. Gaming, you will never eat up 16 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, it's unnecessary. Like, if you're using it as an editing rig, sure, yeah, absolutely, get all the RAM you can get your hands on, but for this, it's just unnecessary. So instead of paying for 32 gigabytes of RAM, I got a lower latency, higher clocked RAM, which would be way more beneficial in this application. So I got some 3600 megahertz CAS 17, which I'm sure you can overclock to like 16. 8x2. So not using a single stick, but using two 8 gig sticks, so that will give you dual channel bandwidth. And here is a very, very big upgrade to what this Walmart PC has. So this Walmart PC uses some micro ATX gigabyte POS in an ATX case nonetheless, so it just looks goofy. So here we have a full ATX motherboard, the ROG Strix Z390. This board is awesome. It has 50/50 headers on it, so you can coordinate all your RGB stuff through Aura Sync. It has pretty good overclockability capabilities. The VRMs on it are pretty good. So it gives you a little bit of everything without charging you a crazy enthusiast price like the Hero or the Maximus or the Formula would be. I use these boards all the time for people who aren't like serious overclockers, people who want like a small performance bump, people who want to overclock like a couple 100 megahertz, but not anything crazy like pushing their 8086K to 5.5 plus gigahertz on God knows what, using a chiller or whatever. I wouldn't recommend this board for that, but for a regular daily driver board, you want some niceties, you want M.2, you want RGB, you want to be able to push your CPU. This is my go-to board for that. So then we have the 8700K. So the Walmart PC only gave you the locked 8700, obviously with a board that doesn't even support overclocking, because that's wasted money. But here we have the 8700K, which is unlocked, so you can actually push it. You can overclock it higher, which will yield you higher frame rates, especially for those of you gaming in 1080p. And to support that, we have the Kraken X52 240mm all-in-one cooler. This cooler is excellent. I'm using the X72 myself in my current rig, waiting to get my custom loop built. These are awesome. They are super reliable, super quiet, and they keep your stuff super cool. These are definitely my favorite coolers, and they work awesome and they look great. So I don't really know what more I need to say about that. And then here we have probably one of the biggest advantages is the Samsung 970 EVO. This is 1 terabyte of X4 NVMe storage. So not only does this rip that 2.5-inch SSD to shreds, we have a whole terabyte of it. So yeah, you can spend like $60 and get another, HDD if you need more storage. But this gives you a full terabyte for tons of games, tons of programs, whatever you need to run. And this is the fastest form of storage that is out right now, is NVMe. So this is a huge performance upgrade in comparison to the other PC that just has, you know, the 500 gig SSD, where, you know, it's only half the size and less than half the speed. So that would be a huge increase in performance there. And it helps us out too, because then we don't have to cable manage drives. It looks a lot cleaner. It just bolts to your motherboard. Don't have to stash any drives anywhere. So, and you'll see here we're only at about the $1,300 mark. So that brings us to this. So I highly recommend getting a used graphics card, because these retailers almost never adjust their prices. New 1080 Ti's are still like $1,300, what they were back in February, which is nuts. Don't ever pay those prices. Just get one used. If it's hot, pull it apart, repaste it. If you're having issues with it, register it and use the warranty. These warranties are good for several years. I've had to use it once or twice out of tons of GPUs bought and sold. So you can see here, EVGA is my #1 recommended brand for any graphics card. Their overclockability is nuts. Their temps are usually lower than pretty much anything else out there. And no, EVGA isn't sponsoring this video. Nobody's paying me to say this. So you can see here that we have several cards that have sold for about $650 here. I don't know what the deal is with these $100 cards. That'd be cool if they actually sold for that. $650 here, $660, $640, $625, $640, $685. So you can see about the average price paid for an EVGA 1080 Ti is $650. That's all you should ever pay for that card, is $650, because that's what they go for. So you add $650 onto $1,287, and that gets you a little over $1,900. So right now we're $200 short. We're $200 under budget, but you factor in, you know, they charge $2,100 and then shipping. So for labor for us, I personally, I don't know about Jim, but I personally charge $100 flat rate, unless you're trying to do like a custom water cooling loop or anything crazy. It's going to eat up a lot of my time. But if I'm just putting a PC together for you, loading Windows on it and sending it on my way, then yeah, that's just $100. So we're at $2,000. So we're $100 under Walmart. We've blown them out of the water. And if you're in the local area, I will hand deliver the PC myself. If you are out of state, then obviously I will ship it. Shipping's probably like $50. So I'd say confidently that we're probably about $100, $150 under Walmart. So you're saving money. That's money you can put towards games. And you get a PC that completely annihilates what Walmart has to offer. So that is just a glimpse of why you should always go, like, not even us, like, even if you don't choose us, that's cool, but if you value the money that you work for, go to somebody who builds computers, because I guarantee you that just buying the parts and then having somebody take a day out of their week to put it together for you and load Windows on there, you will have a dramatically better experience, given the individual knows what they're doing, than just buying a pre-built from Walmart or something. Because Walmart doesn't care about you. They don't care about the PC they built. They don't care about any of that. They care about profit margins. They care about numbers. So they get all these crappy parts, throw it together in a box, send it out the door, and they just write gaming all over everything. And then people are like, oh, gaming, and they buy it. Don't be a chump. Don't do that. Have one built. And again, like, they're charging $2,100 and putting 32 gigs of RAM in there. That's something I see very frequently with pre-builts, is that you can't really get one that's purpose-built, if that makes sense. It usually just scales up. Like, you get a slow processor and 8 gigs of RAM, and then you get a faster one with 16 gigs of RAM and an SSD, and it all scales up as a whole. You can't get one Like they don't really sell workstations with super nice processors and great cooling with like a budget graphics card and the RAM that you want. Like the builds like that just don't really exist unless you have one made. So Wired Customs slogan: don't pay for what you don't need. Don't buy that 32 gigs of RAM if you're just gaming. Don't buy their cheap Chinese crap and just line Walmart's pockets. Help somebody out near you that is trying to make a living off of doing tech stuff, or simply just likes doing it. Because you will save money, you'll get a better computer. So, thank you for watching. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any future content. And we'll see you at the next video.